I'm good. How are you?
Huh, Deb, can you hear me?
I
Well,
can
while
hear.
we're waiting for her, I want to thank everyone out on D Live, Vaughn, Rumble, Roku, and X, and all our lurkers out there. We always appreciate you. And I archive my show on Rumble on Eighties Erin channel, and I am the number eight letters Erin on X. Okay, Deb, hello, I hear you.
I was on mute.
That's okay. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Just ran out of time like usual.
Yeah, it lots to cover. I mean, and there's the trouble is there's so much that's not getting put in the news, really, that you have to dig for it.
Yeah, it's like I don't know, when I do my show, I take my articles and I collect them and then I put them in order. And then when you put them in order, you're like, whoa, there's like how is nobody reporting on how these dots connect? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I
It's
mean,
like once you put them in order, you're like, this is clear as freaking day what's happening here.
yeah. Well, I'm glad to see at least something's going on about uh epic the epic city in Texas. I know Ken Paxton started something, and now the DOJ is getting involved. I'm glad. And it makes me wonder if uh, did you see that about Scott Miller talking about writ of habeas corpus? And I wonder if that's going
Yes.
to
Hmm.
play in the whole Sharia law thing. Because I mean, if these
It
people are,
could.
if these people are, found to be, I mean, didn't President Trump order like these nations or these people as terrorists? I mean, if they're terrorists, can't they be booted out of the country?
See, but that's the thing. Like, I know that here in Oklahoma, before we moved here, I was following it from Illinois. They tried to pass a sneaky Sharia law, anti Sharia law ban, and they used other language. I think they tried twice, maybe, where the first they just kind of said Sharia, then they tried to basically make a bill that all but says Sharia, but is about Sharia. And both times the state Supreme Court here threw it out. And I don't recall if those kind of bills ever made it to the US Supreme Court. I'm gonna guess probably because after 9/11 and there for a while, like the beginning of the Tea Party, when they found those terrorist training camps, Islamic training camps they were in a couple places, but I know Tennessee, and Obama wouldn't shut them down. Like that was just fine to have Islamic armies training in the woods of Tennessee. People got very freaked out, and a lot of red states and stuff started trying to pass these anti-Islamic laws. And to the best of my knowledge, it's never passed muster because of, more religious freedom. And it always frustrated me because it always seemed to me that if you first pass a law or some sort of tried a court case that defined the difference in between Muslims and Islamic political belief, which are two different things, then you could pass laws like that by saying this isn't anything about Muslim religion, it's about Islamic political politics, which is contrary to the US Constitution. So I don't know how we're gonna achieve that, but it's not that simple. But what they like, so in Illinois, we shut down mosques by micromanaging everything they did. So we're like, okay, this building is only coded for X occupancy. This sidewalk is like a half a foot too long and going into this easement and make it so freaking expensive and so litigious and just have constant hearings, neighborhood feedback that they finally give up and say, we're out of here and just go for years. We did that. We kept a lot of mosques and Islamic centers from being built. by literally being the most psycho neighborhood ever. And the Tea Party would show up every single time. Like we went to court cases, hearings, zoning hearings, everything you can imagine. Every step they took, we threw just a wildfire at them of every single kind of complaint, lawsuit, whatever that you could throw at it until they gave up. And that's how we fought them in Illinois. Of course, we didn't win every time, but in areas that decided to get serious about it, you can do it.
I hope we do. I mean, this is this is just talk about another invasion. It just and we let it happen. You know, we let it happen. So
Well, I mean, I know you listen to my show somewhat while you're getting ready. I've been banging the drum on this from day one about, this is a medieval caliphate. I mean, that's what they preach, that
mhm.
that's what the political Islamic part is civilization warfare. It's really quite similar to what the Chinese with the People's War.
Yeah.
So if you read their teachings, you become a certain percentage of the population. I forget what it is, 15% maybe. Then Muhammad says you attack and you become their government, you become their town. And that's how the Muslim world took over the Middle East. They went up and down as the lowly little merchant went to each town along the Silk Road, would set up shop, become friendly, be everyone's friend, do all the work, don't complain, be the best little citizen everywhere, of everyone. And then when you reach I think it's 15%, you rise up and take over. And that's how they took over. I mean, you hear about the hordes and the big armies and the throwing the plague corpses over the town walls and all that. That stuff happened too. But in reality, this other method, the people, like a silent people revolution, is how they took over so many areas. And back then, the Christians or whatever also just thought they were these friendly people, the helpful merchant, and just didn't pay any mind to them because, there's all kinds of people along the Silk Road from every part of the world. So they just blended in.
I just keep remembering what William Feeder, Pam had him on. He's written several books about uh, Islam and some of these Middle Eastern tribes, and he said, one of the things he says for them, and when you're nice to them, you're basically giving them permission to conquer you. Sometimes you can't.
Hmm.
Everybody wants to be nice. We want to do kumbaya and and join hands. And in theory, that's great. But for some people, some tribes, some cultures, you can't do that. You have to show strength, and sometimes it has to be in a tough man. You have to be tough. You can't just say, "Okay, come invade us." Oh, please invade me, sir. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of stuff going on. It's not just that. It's like this Israel situation, and you have so many people. I guess there's some word now. I was reading there's some fight. What are they calling it? The woke right. Anyway, there's people on both ends of the spectrum now that are so hyper focused on destroying Israel and how terrible Israel is. And then you're like, have you not noticed that if Israel goes down, the entire so-called holy sites, the whole scene there will
Mm-hmm.
immediately, Syria will flood in and it'll become an Islamic caliphate. And they're going to take every relic of Christianity, every holy site, and they're going to turn them into mosques or they're going to blow them up and turn them into dust. So I always kind of marvel at that. Like, wow, I always think to myself, wow, these Islamic people, like strategists, assuming they're behind the strategy to some extent, they're like brilliant. You're like begging them to come in and totally destroy the Middle East, at least sort of the religious relic, tourist, Holy Land aspect of it. It's like you're begging them to come in. It is it's totally insane.
It is. It is.
They're right on the border of Syria now. That's part of the caliphate again. So it's like, yeah, that's why I just stay away from that stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'm not fueling any fires because I don't even know like what kind of fire I'm burning here.
Right. Right. It's definitely a hot topic. So
I don't know where this propaganda is coming from. All I know is I don't have much hope that the Pope is going to call up a Christian army to reconquer Jerusalem and stuff. I don't see that happening at all. And that's what would have to happen. You'd have to call up an army to take it back. And I just don't see this Pope doing that.
Yeah.
Any of these popes or any of these people, they wouldn't know. It's like that aspect of Christianity is just gone. Like Christendom means nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yep. I don't know.
So I don't know. I mean, if I was the Pope, I would be measuring everything and building a crate and positioning railroad cars and like barges and stuff so that when we're stupid enough to destroy Israel, or somebody is, that they can get all of the most important Christian. I mean, how do you get it out of there? But they're going to have to evacuate fast. Let's put it that way. They're going to have to take everything apart, put it on barges and whatever they can do to get it out of there and reassemble it, hopefully, millennia from now, back in the Holy Land. Otherwise, that stuff's all going to be destroyed.
That's that's part of the agenda. I think that's what they want. That's what they want. So
it's sad.
yeah.
I still like tears just roll down my cheeks when I look at what they did to Palmyra, and that's not even like a Christian site or even one that anyone talks about, although it actually is one of the earliest kingdom, I guess, that you could say that the royal family in there, like I can't think of all the writings. Early church fathers all were in Palmyra, several of them. So, and Islam came, they put dynamite under the foundations of things that have stood for, 2,000 years now or whatever, and just blew the shit out of it. Destroyed Palmyra, one of the most beautiful ruins out there. And the only reason it's ruins to begin with is when the Muslims came in during the Dark Ages, the people who lived in Palmyra knocked over old Roman temples and stuff and stacked up. And this is the same, like when you look in a lot of these Middle Eastern ruined cities, it's because the people ruined it themselves to take the wood timbers from the roofs and everything they could to block the roads and build like a barricade or a wall around their city to prevent the Muslim hordes, back in 600s, 700s, whatever, that those temples, everything had stood until then. The Muslims didn't ruin the cities. They did. They had no choice. They're trying to save it by ruining it. But I will let you get on with your show.
Okay.
I have stuff to do this evening, and it's been kind of a weird day.
What do you think
I'm
about?
like,
Let's see. Where's President Trump? He's going over in that area, isn't he? This week. Isn't that where he's headed?
yes, he's going to the Middle East. He's going to Saudi Arabia, I believe, first. Maybe UAE and Qatar, I think, and kind of blowing off Netanyahu, actually.
This week is definitely going to be interesting then.
Right. Last time that was quite a show with that sword dance and all
Yeah,
that.
that capitulation tour.
So yeah, it's I don't know. Some people are saying, well, 100% Trump's there to make deals. And I think, he's trying to end this Israel thing, but Russia's very much tied into a lot of that Middle Eastern stuff as well. And
But
the oil, and Russia's thing is oil. So
this is his first overseas international tour, isn't it? I mean, since he's been in the office the second time.
I think so. Did he go to England? No, I can't
No,
remember.
I think England came here. I think they came here.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I'm just nervous now when he travels.
yeah,
I don't trust any of these people.
no. Oh, he went to the Mac Mama saying that he went to the Pope's funeral. That's right. I forgot about that. That's
Yeah,
right.
Pope's funeral. He did go to that.
And met up with Zelensky, and I tell you what, I don't think people can. I mean, nobody can tell me. I still don't understand why when he had that phone call with Zelensky back in 2020 or whatever, and then it was, oh, it he has to be impeached, but yet we give him billions and billions of money, and that was okay because Biden did it. So they don't know what to think of him on that.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's almost like all these people, not all of them, but a lot of them, I was just read a story. I don't know if you heard that Trump hired a UN NGO agency that does the whole like right to migrate. He's hiring them to now assist with percent of the wealth, and we believe people should be able to migrate out of poor nations, the whole shtick. And you almost believe them, like that they actually feel like they're being really good people or Christians or whatever you want to call it. You actually believe them. Then you find out they're mercenaries, man. And their NGOs would be just as happy to get them to get a check. I mean, really crazy.
Yeah, it is. I agree. Well, anything on the left, anything that the left does, I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, it's okay, nice, and I have compassion, but come on, feed, we cannot be the savior of the world. We cannot solve the world's problems. It's okay to take care of homeland. Can't open the doors to everybody who wants to come in. So it's like, what are you gonna do?
Right. Even if you can, there's just cultural clashes that cannot be overcome. There are cultural clashes that cannot be overcome in the ancient world, you know, in the Middle Ages, you name any era. There are just certain cultural clashes that cannot be overcome.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you did have the money and resources to take care of them or feed them. It's just preposterous.
Yeah, it's like, what do you about somehow, why don't you why don't you, if you want people come in, why don't you sponsor them, why don't you sponsor them and say, okay, I will be responsible if they get in trouble, if they break the law. I will be responsible for them to get a job, and so showing that they can actually contribute. They get this thing because they get this green card to pay taxes. It's like, don't they may pay taxes, but believe me, they get refunds from that tax. So yeah, that's like that whole narrative that, oh, the rich people need to pay their fair share of taxes. Well, guess what? Those rich people that are talking about, how many of the so-called the Democrats. You know, how many percentage of the Democrats aren't paying their fair share of taxes by your own standards?
Well, I did. They were talking about tax the rich, whatever, in Trump's bill. In other words, just not extend the tax cuts, the Trump
Mm-hmm.
tax cuts into like they're extending the Trump tax cuts, not to install that in to extend that in the upper bracket. And then people are saying, "Oh, well, those people are small business owners." Yeah. So anything that it's all bullshit. If you wanted to sort out the small business owners, um, you could find a way to do that.
Yeah.
What I think that they should do is they need to crack down on these vendors who every week, if it's not Joanne's Factory, Joanne's Fabrics, it's the party store, is that they're just pirates pulling down our entire country, every business in our country. You know, how about let's go after those people? I mean, if you're going to take down the whole mall, everything in the mall, then at the very least, you should get taxed to crap for doing that nonsense. So it's not worth doing anymore, you know, under these pretense. And it just infuriates me. You know, make those people pay down the national debt because every time they take their grappling hooks into a country and a company and pull it underwater, they're putting thousands of people out of work and pulling down whole shopping malls and stuff.
Yeah, they're doing that to make way for their.
So they use that some kind of thing. It's like carried interest and certain financing tricks they can do about loaning capital and stuff. Close up all that, all those loopholes, and people wouldn't lose their jobs so much.
Yeah, they're making.
So people always say,
I'm
I
just.
can do this and I can't do that and this and that. You're the legislator. You're not here. If you think a law is incorrect, it's your job to fix that, not bitch at me about how I even talk about it because that's the law. I'm telling you, change the law, you know?
But they're not going to do that because they probably have a family member who's a family member.
Well, finance hedge fund managers, every single one of them. All you have to do is go and look. Every single one of them.
Exactly.
Even Trump's controlled by these people to a certain extent. He's just better at tap dancing around them. You have to have their money to win.
Mm-hmm.
They have all the money. They've sunk everything and took the cash.
Yeah.
Right, Romney. That's a perfect example. They're corporate raiders, I think they used to call them. I call them pirates.
Yep.
You know, that's not capitalism, that's destruction. So it's all nonsense. Oh, well, we can't do that. Yes, you can. That's what you're here to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Rename a few more post offices or whatever you do there all day and then go home for 3 weeks. But anyway, no, they're not going to tax the rich, the table. That's like some kind of fact sheet that went out to the media. No, they are going to extend the Trump tax breaks to all levels. But they, with what they have now, and they're not done, it won't be done till the end of the summer. Where they are now, they are not able to find the money to do no tax on tips, no, all those other extras. They cannot find the money to do that. That's where we are right now, I've heard.
Or are they lying about it?
No, they're not lying about it. They're just making sure everyone lowers their expectations. or they wouldn't put the fact sheet out to the friendly media to make everyone lower their expectations. And it's true. I mean, we don't have much money to play with, but they haven't cut even one thing really. So, and there's fighting about the SALT thing, which is deducting your state and local taxes from your federal taxes, which in their vernacular costs a lot of money, aka money not coming in. So that they're not going to get around that because of New York. We have to have the New York senators. Elise Stefanik's the one, on that high horse, but she's really doing what New York wants, and that's kind of her job. So you can't really hold it against her. New York and California are the Congress people we can't lose. Now that we lost the Wisconsin Supreme Court, we're going to lose 2 Congress people there. Alabama just announced that they're redoing their map. We're going to lose another congressional seat there. Unless our DOJ wakes up and stops it. And we're also going to lose another 3 seats, apparently, in North
Yeah.
So that's our majority right now. So we have to gain in New York and California is what it comes down to. And the only way that's going to happen is if you let them get their SALT thingy back. So that's what's going to happen. We're going to end up subsidizing basically New York and California like we always do. So that's going to happen. And, I don't know something's got to give. I don't know what's going to give. But if they don't do anything, then we have to see if the bond market decides to collapse the dollar or not. It'll be a bombshell because they're expecting the country to be fiscally responsible. They're not going to be. The bond market will either continue to buy treasuries or they won't. If they don't buy our treasuries, we go into a death spiral. And this is all going to happen right when this Rio conference is happening with the BRICS nations introducing this new currency possibly. So it's a firestorm, man. And it's all because our Congress cannot cut. They should be sending bills like all the Doge stuff. They're not. They haven't sent one through that I'm aware of. They're doing nothing. So it's gonna be a firestorm. I mean, Trump at some point. I don't know, man. They're gonna have to get tapes out on these guys. I don't know what they're gonna have to do. But you can't let the entire nation fall over a freaking debt. They have been warned about this. I especially mean the Republicans. The whole Tea Party, all it was about was stop freaking spending the money. Look at the debt. I did 15 years of that or whatever it was. Lobbying every month, going and seeing the congressman. Begging. And all he could come up with is, well, we could raise the retirement age on you. That was their answer. No. It's crazy.
It is. It is. It is. I'm just.
I mean, would you buy a treasury from this country if you look at the expenditure we have that's paying the interest on those treasuries? Would you buy one?
Yeah. I wouldn't buy treasures either.
No one in their right mind would.
It just right now. I mean, I don't even know what's up. I got some, the treasury bonds back in the '90s, and I actually found one, and I don't. It was a 30-year treasury note, and I don't even know if I could even do that anymore. So I mean, I don't even know if it's worth anything anymore. So it just I don't know. I'm like you. Something's got to give. I don't know. It seems like, I mean, and I've been screaming about it forever. It's like Congress seems to do more, have so more, let's do all these investigations, let's have all these committees. It's like, you got all these committees, but you don't do anything with them. Why not? You know, why do we have so many conferences, committee meetings? Why aren't you out there doing your job? So, it's crazy.
Well, I mean, the older I get, again, this is just my opinion. In the crisis that we're in, I don't think Congress should be investigating anything right now except themselves. Because the crisis we're in is many, but the crisis that the fire that needs to be put out is the situation with the budget.
Mm-hmm.
And they want all the dog and pony shows. Like for a long time, the dog and pony show with what's his name? Congressman from Ohio. I don't know why I'm tired of his name escaping me. Jordan. I'll do his Fox News it. Blah blah blah. We're gonna get him. We're gonna get him. Before that, it was Trey Gowdy and the boy from Idaho. One kid. I can't think of his name. He's on Fox News places. It's like just a one big gigantic dog and pony show. We're gonna get them, Russiagate. We're gonna get them. This. We're gonna get them. To a certain extent, you could say if Q Post was a LARP, which maybe it is. I don't know. If it was, outside of the educational purposes, the fact that it kept all of us so entranced on Russiagate was I think it's an honest criticism that it kept our eyes focused on things that in the end are never, are not in a way, I don't know how to say it. It was taking our eyes off the money, and the money is what the big crisis was in a sense. So that is a fair criticism of Q. Q should have been talking about the budget way, 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 way more. Because in the end, Russiagate's not going to take America down, but the debt will. They don't buy our treasury bonds. If that bond window, no one's standing at that bond window even one time, it's over. So, that is a fair criticism of being super focused on Q. Q never once talked about the bonds, never talked about any of that. And I learned a lot about that actually from Steve Bannon, who was a banker, finance guy. And, various people that lectured at the Tea Party. So I didn't know anything about that stuff before. We had so many people, even Democrats, used to come to the Tea Party and talk to us about the physical state of, in Illinois. They weren't paying their bills. They would a road would break down. And even where I worked at one point, if you didn't get the cash money, not even the check, the cash money from the state of Illinois, you'd be a fool to start working for them. So you'd see road projects that would go for 2 weeks. And then when they needed their next upfront cash money and it didn't come, that road project would just sit there with not one guy showing up month after month after month until they could get a cash check where the bank actually gave them the money and it wasn't just a bouncy rubber check. Then the guys would show up and do this a little more road work. And that's how Illinois was running. And that's all the Tea Party was super focused on, for the most part, in Illinois. So, we had a big lawsuit against the comptroller and the treasurer to have them open up their books, and that's what started, open the books, and Andrew Andrzejewski, who was part of the Tea Party, was because we couldn't even talk about what was happening in Illinois because no one would even tell us how bad it was. All we know is if you ever got a check from the state of Illinois, you had about a 50-50 chance that the check would bounce if you cashed it. So, and our controller who was a Republican, used to go on the AM radio and just laugh about it. And someone's like, well, why have you ever seen my office? It's just stacks and stacks of checks and bills. And they're like, well, how do you decide who to pay first? Well, sometimes it just matters which one my hand lands on my desk. This is the kind of stuff she would say out loud. And then, people like, well, are you paying people who are politically favorable to you? She's like, well, I bet that's happening. If someone calls me and tells me to pay somebody, I do it. It was just like, is this really like, this is, wow. I mean, name any kingdom throughout history. They are probably run better than the state of Illinois.
Well, I hope things get better soon.
Right. Well, in Illinois, it got better because they greased the skids to get their little commie Barack Hussein Obama in the office and get his hand on the federal till. And then the money started flooding in, and basically through a whole bunch of different schemes like Obamacare, this, that, and the other thing, saved Illinois and a lot of other states that otherwise would have failed a long time ago. So, um, yeah, that's what happened basically. So I know if you live in Illinois, and I'm sure there are people out there who do, I'm not up on it entirely, but last I knew, the Supreme Court of Illinois declared that the only creditor that must by law, by the Constitution, which was changed in 1972, the only creditor or obligation that will be paid first is the retirees. So if you have a state pension in Illinois, not a school pension, but a state pension, you're the first in line and they will get paid out first, whatever money there is, which there is none. They'll get the first deals, pennies on the dollar, and then everyone else comes after that, any other creditor to the state. So that'll be the catastrophic end of Illinois. Maybe Canada wants to take Illinois. We can make Canada take them. That would work.
Right.
That's one way to get rid of that money pit.
Or we can give them we can give California to Canada.
Right.
I mean,
but I mean, they actually put in somehow it passed too. Like in Illinois, they had the Constitution every 20 years, it's like opened to amendments and changes. It's like a weird thing. And they it was 1972. I can't remember if it's a ballot initiative and people vote on it or how it happens, but somehow they slid in there that no matter what happens, I mean, a nuclear blast or whatever, the first people in line to get whatever money's left is the pensioners, and that you can't make a deal to do pennies on the dollar or any other deal. Any money you have has to go into the pension funds, and it's ridiculous. They can't even work it out. They can't. It's like they need to be doing bankruptcy negotiations and they did renegotiate creditors, and creditors would settle 10 cents on the dollar or whatever to get some money to get paid. But the pension funds, that's never going to happen. So you'd have to dissolve the Constitution, which at some point that'll happen because you can't pay out money you don't have. And they always, I mean, you would talk to politicians who are like, oh, the feds would step in and pay it. I'm like, oh, really? You really think the feds are going to step in and pay all the Illinois pensions? Then what happens when California shows up with their handout in New York and blah 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 blah. And everyone's pensions when we filed bankruptcy. Now you got to pay out ours. Like where does it end?
Well, they bailed out the banks, right? And Fannie, look at the Fannie
Right.
Mae and Freddie Mac. They bailed them out. So,
Right. But bondholders and that agreed to that. There's a difference. I don't think that they're ever going to agree to a bailout. Someone has to float all the dollars that you would print for that. So, we would have to print our own money and buy, and for a while we did buy our own bond issues, but at some point that's Weimar Republic. Uh, so yeah, I mean that really is. I just don't talk about it that much because first of all, it's so depressing, and second of all, I don't even really know what to say. Like, I know if I was a congressperson, I would be like freaking out about the money. I just would. I would be so freaked out about it.
yeah, I think there's a lot of people right now
Even if
freaking
every
about
big
that.
donor like was bad telling me, your career is over, I'd be like, good. I'll go down in flames over this. You know what I mean? I don't really need to be here, even though I love DC. I don't need to be here. I will kamikaze pilot this if it means my kids and grandkids will know I'm the one who saved the country. I just can't imagine not being in that mindset. It's so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I can't understand it.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you have a better handle on things like that than I do, so I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. All right. Well, I better get going here. I got like shopping to do and laundry to do and stuff. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. But those of you I don't see tomorrow morning, for all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day. The hardest, yes, most rewarding job you'll ever have.
Yep, yep. Happy Mother's Day, Erin.
Thank you. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, everybody, this is On a Wing of Prayer. This is a call-in show. So now that I found out, this is Deb65 in case for those who, if this is your first time joining. I started back in 2020, right before the lockdowns and everything, as a show host. And, when I originally wanted to become a show host, one of the things I wanted to do was have call ins. I really wanted to have a call in show, but, things evolved, I've done news, I've tried to do funnies. But now that I have figured out how to do call-ins, I figured so we do have I do have a number, and thanks to Sunny and I can't remember someone else, Jam and Mammy put out my number. If you want to call in, it's 774 290 2200, and the passcode is, hold on, I'm trying to do three things at once and it doesn't always work. Okay. 2902200, and the ID is 3052773. You can also go through the web for those who may be out in a different. Yeah, I'm time with Nelly. And for those who don't, if you're out of the country and you don't want to call in using a phone number because it may cost you, you can go through the web, through your computer. And I am putting down the link and the same passcode, 3052773. And we will, and this is open. It's open, basically open. whatever you want to topic you want to talk about. If you want to come on, just talk about your favorite vacation. You're more than welcome to do that. So, in the meantime, I am going to do my show opener, and if I don't have any calls right away, I'm going to read an article that this just blows my mind.
Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against power, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Therefore, take the armor of God, that you may be able to withstand an evil day, and having done all, stand. Stand therefore, having girded your waist with truth, having put on the breastplate of righteousness, having shod your feet with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, with which you will be able to quench all of the fiery darts of the wicked one, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, being watchful to this end with all the perseverance and supplication for all the saints, and for me, that utterance may be given to me, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains, and willfully so, that in it I may speak boldly as I ought to speak.
Father God, I ask now invitation of your Holy Spirit. May the fullness of Spirit Jesus to be anointed with and understanding with your hustle and meat.
We're just here. So anyway, until someone decides to call in, you know, just like having a conversation. I had Authenticity called in last week. Vigilator called in on Thursday morning. So we just had a nice little chat. You know, doesn't have to be scary. But anyhow, so I thought this was interesting. This is just, we're talking about the whole immigration issue. So 19-year-old college student could be deported after traffic violation. So this is Atlanta. So a community is fighting to prevent the deportation of a 19-year-old college student who is in the custody of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. Yamina Arias Cristobal of Dalton, Georgia, was stopped by police on Monday for making an improper turn. She was taken into custody for driving without a valid license. How about that? Let's see. So Arias Cristobal was eventually taken to an ICE detention center in Lumpkin, Georgia. This is where she went to school. This is where she started at school first, her younger sister, Aurora said. Although undocumented, in other words, illegal, Arias Cristobal has lived in the same county in Georgia, Whitfield County, since she was 4 years old. She graduated from Dalton High School and currently attends Dalton State University. So if she's undocumented, I want to know how it is that she was able to go to school all these years. This is where she grew up. This is where she has all her friends. This is her life, Aurora said. Her family said the Deferred Action of Childhood Arrivals Program, also known as DACA, stopped accepting new applications before she was eligible. She's angry, then she's sad, then she's just nervous on what the next step can be. If she can be deported to Mexico or if she's going to stay, her sister said. Her sister's father, Arias Tovar, is also undocumented and in the same detention center as his daughter after he was arrested for speeding and driving without a license. The community has shown its support through a growing GoFundMe page. Oh yeah, here we go. We're going to get a GoFundMe to help Arias Cristobal obtain legal aid. The family has an attorney who told WANF he is requesting a bond hearing from the judge. Arias Cristobal's mother said her daughter is not a criminal and should be home. She's just brokenhearted and sad because you don't want your daughter to be in jail while you're fighting for her, her mother said through a translator. So her mother can't even speak English. Here's the thing. Here's where it gets really wonky. One of the reports I saw, her mother can't speak English. And I thought her mother was also an illegal too. So Georgia House Rep Casey Carpenter, who represents Dalton, told WANF he wrote a letter to the judge on behalf of Arias Cristobal and her character. In a statement posted on social media, the Department of Homeland Security said Arias Cristobal and her father will be able to go back to Mexico together. Mr. Tobar had an ample opportunity to seek a legal pathway to citizenship. He chose not to, the department said. We are not ignoring the rule of law. So here is, let me see if I can, wish I could remember, I think it was the Independent. I read, let me see. So there's more to this story that's been not being see okay, we do have a phone call, so let me get this real quick. Let's see this. Okay, so she ran a red light, told her, okay, here it is. So on Monday, Dalton Police Department officers pulled over the 19-year-old college student for allegedly and illegal right turn on a red light. She told officers she didn't have her international driver's license on her. So she's supposed to have an international driver's license, which she knew very well she could get in trouble. Now she faces the possibility of being deported from the country along with her family. Cristobal was wearing chains around her wrists and ankles when she was moved to ICE detention center this week. Online records reviewed by the Independent showed she is jailed inside Stewart Detention Center, roughly 4 hours away from Dalton in Lumpkin, home to one of the largest and most notorious immigration detention centers in the country, operated by a private prison firm, CoreCivic, formerly the Corrections Corporation of America. You know, I really don't know how I feel about these private jails or detention centers. At least 10 people have died. So, Arias Cristobal's parents, this indicates that both parents did not have legal permission to enter the United States from Mexico in 2010 when she was a toddler, and she did not qualify for the DACA program, which ended the year before her family entered the country, according to family friends. She is not expected to appear before an immigration judge for several weeks, and she is isolated from her family members except one. Her father, Jose Francisco Arias Tovar, was recently arrested after going 19 miles over the speed limit and is inside the same ICE detention center. So it says the family will be able to return to Mexico together, says Homeland Security Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said in a statement. So again, he had ample opportunity. Trump's administration's CBP Home app is giving parents illegally in the country a chance to take full control of their departure and self-depart with the potential ability to return the legal right way and come back to live in the American dream. Although right now they're just, here it is they keep bringing people for the American dream while they are trying to destroy the United States, to destroy America. Go figure. So Arias Cristobal is a recent graduate of Dalton High School and a cross-country athlete now attending Dalton State College. She was enrolled for the spring of 2025 semester. So the family came to the United States with big dreams because they wanted a big future for my older sisters. The younger sister told Georgia's TVC News Channel 9. My sister goes to college. She was an honor student since middle school. She runs. She loves to run. It's her passion. The only reason they came to follow is to follow my sister's dream. Let's see. I'm not going to read that. So they have raised over $60,000 since the publication of this publication. So Republican State Representative Casey Carpenter is pressing an immigration judge for her release. The reality is the conversation has always been that we need to get hard criminals out of the country. Unfortunately, the people that aren't hard criminals are getting caught in the wash. It seems like we are much better at people that are committing misdemeanors than people that are actually a danger to society. Well, here's the problem, okay? Our immigration laws state if you when you come into this country, you can't even get a speeding ticket. That's the way our laws are written. Polling has routinely shown a wide majority of Americans support legislation that would open a pathway to permanent legal status for young immigrants brought to the United States illegally as children. In January, days before President Trump entered office, a federal appeals court ruled against DACA, but the decision did not deliver any immediate changes for the program's more than 500,000 beneficiaries teeing up a Supreme Court challenge. So, anyway, there's that. I thought that was, yeah. Okay, okay, I will be, okay, I'm coming. Just give me a moment, I'm coming. You should be getting something pretty soon. Okay, Dynamex, don't. Okay, I line real quick and then I will.
Post.
Hello, Dynamex, are you on?
Oh my God, you had me on hold with music playing so I couldn't follow along with the show because I kept the volume down.
Well,
You know what I mean?
I told you
Oh, it's okay.
I told you I was going to read this article, so
Well,
I would.
oh, you did. That's what I was thinking. She's going to get through the article.
Yeah.
So
thank
you
for
have me triggered.
Yeah.
You triggered me now because you brought up Dalton. And was that Dalton School, Dalton University in Georgia, in Dalton, Georgia?
Yes.
Well, wasn't Epstein, where are the Epstein files? Wasn't that big in the news Thursday? Like, when is Pam Bondi going to release the Epstein flight list? And more than just the flight list. I mean, well, yeah, the client list and all Epstein, and then nothing happened. We've known about Epstein. Hello, chat. They're going to get schooled now. They get their pen and paper ready, I'm sure. Hello? Hello?
I'm listening.
Dalton School is the school that Epstein went to when he was about 21 years old, and his teacher was Attorney General William Barr's father. Donald Barr was his teacher at the Dalton School back in the mid-1970s. Remember? Remember Dalton? Donald Barr was former Attorney General Bill Barr's father, and he wrote a book. Yes, he did. He wrote a book about young girls. Yes, he did.
Hold on, Dynamex. They're saying they can't hear you. You're not muted. I don't know why. Hold on a second. Oh, you know why? I'm not sharing. Hold on, everybody. I'm not shit with me, everybody.
I would love to start over.
This is just my third time, so I'm.
Tell everybody in chat to put up the hand wave signal. Everybody in chat can put up the symbol for waving to Dynamex, and I'll respond as soon as I see the first one. You can give me a wave hand symbol in chat, and I'll wave back, but you can't see me. I can see you. Wave, wave, wave. Thank you, Grooviness. They're coming through now. So can I start over, please?
Start over.
This undocumented 4-year-old, well, illegal alien, sorry to put it. She's illegal is illegal is illegal. I don't care how old they are. You said Dalton University in Dalton, Georgia. Right?
Yes, I did.
Is everybody listening? 5 by 5? The Dalton School, I have to get premise this all over again. I'm back to Jeffrey Epstein. Everybody was outraged last Thursday, all over again, and I couldn't get through the radio on the discussion that was going on. And people, after all these years, you would think they know more about Epstein, but they don't. So chat's going to take out their pen and paper now and listen closely. The Dalton School is where Jeffrey Epstein went in the mid-1970s in New York City. I'm not sure if it was particularly mathematics, but his teacher was Donald Barr, former Attorney General William Barr's father. Donald Barr also wrote a book about young girls. I don't know about underage, but It was part of this novel, this book that he wrote. He was an author of a novel about young girls, and that was Donald Barr was Jeffrey Epstein's teacher at the Dalton School. So when you brought up Dalton, Georgia, and the illegal alien, that triggered me. So now I'm ready to go. Aren't you happy I called in?
I am happy. I am so delighted.
So, Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill herself, and Virginia Giuffre, she didn't kill herself either. All right? People just don't take the time to look up much of anything. They just think it's all going to get handed to them on a silver platter, this information. If you don't go digging on your own, you're not going to know. And I want to keep it to Jeffrey Epstein. I don't want to go to Letitia James. Jeffrey Epstein had only one brother. His brother, what was his, Mark? And he made his will like the day before he died, which I thought was unusual. I don't know why Mark Epstein, did they disclose how much money he got? I don't know. But it wasn't just Epstein Island. There was also the Zorro Ranch. And everybody keeps talking about the island. No, there's Little St. James Island and Greater St. James Island. But it's too small to land a plane. The plane would land on St. Thomas, 6 miles away. And there's 50,000 people live on St. Thomas. They all knew. But everyone's like, you'd think right now people would know more, but they don't. So there's the Zorro Ranch in New Mexico. You can look that up. You can look up his apartment, I guess, in New York City. And they keep the Lolita. What's the Lolita? The Lolita was the novel written in 1958 about the guy who had longings for a 14-year-old girl, and I guess she was named Lolita. And that's where you get the Lolita. They named the plane after. You know what I'm saying?
Remember the movie Lolita?
Oh, that was Shelley Winters before she pinched her nose and took a dive in the Poseidon Adventure.
Well, it's interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I looked this up. So Donald Barr was a Office of Strategic Services in World War II. So go figure on that. He was like OSS. It
was Radix who brought it to my attention that Ghislaine's father was smuggling airplane parts into Israel back in the 1940s before Israel got founded in 1948. And, there's just so much people don't know about Epstein, about Maxwell, about the geography, about and everybody, they think they know, but they don't know, and it's like there's so much more to it than just this island. And I wish people would just, Radix also played on this show 2 years ago. Ghislaine Maxwell was at the United Nations speaking about her ocean project, the Terra Mar project at the United Nations. It might still be up on Rumble or somewhere. But this was 6 years after Jeffrey did his time in prison. And everybody at the United Nations knew, and nobody flinched. Nobody said a word. And of course, she was arrested 3 years ago in July? That lake up in Bradford, New Hampshire, hiding out. And that's where they got Ghislaine Maxwell. And there's so much about Epstein that people just don't know. It's not just the island. There's also the Zorro Ranch. I want to know most of all, you know what I want to know most of all, Deb? Where were the parents? When these girls went down to that island, where were the parents? Were they taking money and just looking the other way? Should they be charged?
Well, I think in some cases, if you, because I read, from what I understand from reading Virginia Roberts' book, or him, whether you call it memoir or whatever, I think some of the girls were from some of them were from rich families, but some of them were from like really poor villages, and the parents probably thought that they were doing good for their kids, for their daughters. I mean, did you see the Sound of Freedom, where the father takes his
I saw the Sound of Freedom about a week after it made it to movie theaters in early July 2023.
yeah,
And first of all, you got to remember, there's another thing now. The movie The Sound of Freedom, they completed that movie in 2018.
yeah,
It took 5 years to get it released to theaters.
right.
Why did they wait 5 years after that movie was complete to put it into theaters? And I got really 15 minutes into the movie, that really upset me when that woman started putting lipstick on the little girl. I mean, it was just so wrong. But I watched the whole movie, and people should see it. They need to know how desperate things are and how corrupt it is down in Latin America. These people are going. They don't want to get deported back to Latin America. The cartels are waiting for them, and if we give them $1,000 to go home, the cartels are going to take that $1,000 the moment they get off the plane, or they're threatening their families and their homes, and it's a mess down there. So you kind of can understand, but they gotta fix their own countries first before they come up here and ruin ours, right?
Yeah, something's got to give. Something's got to give. But I felt sorry for the father in that movie, because I mean, he's just a humble man, and he thinks he's doing something good, and this woman's convinces him to leave. I was like, I don't know if I could have left my kids with a stranger like that, but I don't know. He just a person who very unaware, and I felt bad for him, because when he finds out that his kids are missing, that's really bad. So
But you have me triggered now because you had to bring up Dalton, and I'm like, the first thing in my mind is the Bill Barr's father, Donald Barr, was teaching Jeffrey Epstein at the Dalton School in New York City back in the mid 1970s, and there's just so many little things that people don't know. They hear it, they talk about it, but there's so much after 6 years. Epstein, what was it? August 8th, 2019. Epstein, what was her name? Oh my God, the coroner, Sampson, who pronounced his death as a suicide. And everybody knew it wasn't a suicide. She didn't retire for 3 years until after that, probably with a golden parachute. And one of the things I heard was he was in the cell with the fourth strongest arm wrestler in the country, or something like that. And of course, we know that there were no video cameras for that specific area of the jail. They were off when he was in there. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? And the guards fell asleep. I mean, come on. But no one wants to go further. And I don't want to digress into the $21 trillion for the underground bases. And I don't want to digress into Letitia James. And I don't want to digress about another Marxist coming from the Chicago now that we have this Pope. I want to stick with Epstein, because I was just so furious that it's so limited to people hearing about this island. But after 6 years, you'd think they'd want to know more about Epstein's family, about the other areas like the Zorro Ranch and the corruption going on in New Mexico. Of course he was paying off people to have his time in New Mexico. He had to be, right?
oh yeah, of course he was. So what do you think? And
And
go ahead. In what?
Well, anyone can look up that property, and the Zorro Ranch was sold. I was looking it up the other night. I put it in my files and stuff. Some things I can't all put on paper, but it's just overwhelming how limited people are on, like, just what does Lolita mean? That was a generation ago. People knew the novel Lolita. They knew the movie from 1962, Lolita. This younger generation, born after like 1990, they don't know. You know, they're 35 years old now. They don't know, you know, the specifics. Of course, they don't teach geography like they used to either. But it just bothers me that there's more. There's so much more to this Epstein and the blackmailing that was going on. I mean, even like Dennis Hastert. We talk about these compromised of public officials. Does that name Dennis Hastert ring a bell?
Not to me, but probably someone else.
The Speaker of the House under the Bush years for 8 years was Republican Dennis Hastert, and he was compromised because he was a wrestling coach when he was closing in on 30 years old with a 16, 17-year-old student, molesting him, or at least one or two, and he was compromised, and he was paying the bribe to the guy. Another one committed suicide, and Dennis Hastert was Speaker of the House, the third in succession, for 8 years in this country. That's how Washington works. Mm-hmm. It's a swamp. It's a compromised swamp. And how do we root it all out?
I don't know.
Let me look and see what chat's got to say. Yeah, see, you got Vigilators commenting and Sunny Days is commenting, and yeah, it's good to see people are paying attention. Billy's always good. Billy can drop links like crazy. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, we had Dennis Hastert, and nobody knew about it until like 5 years ago when he had to pay the fine. I don't think he went. Did Dennis Hastert go to? Did he serve jail time? Somebody will look it up, Billy. Somebody will look it up if Dennis Hastert did jail time. But people, there's so much more to it. But no one bothers to put a pen to paper. They just think it's all going to be told to them. I can't do it all from my brain. And if my brain only works so much too, if I write it down and my eyes glance over it enough times in the ensuing weeks and months, then it will stick to my memory. Mm-hmm. If I don't write it down, I'll forget like anybody else. That's why I'm always suggesting pen to paper notes. Because if you're pecking on a screen or pecking on a keyboard, putting it digital, putting it away, that you'll never go back to it. And everybody knows what I'm saying is true. But if you got a notebook and you're flipping pages and you go, oh, there it is again, you'll remember. So, do you have any other callers? Wait, or should I just keep rambling on?
You can keep rambling if you want, but have you seen the number of judges lately and teachers and?
Oh, I've been writing them down. Roxy knows. I sent Baby Rock the pictures I have from my notebook of that was like 35 judges. Now I'm up to 42. Everybody just knows, there's Judge Boasberg. They'll Judge Boasberg. There's more than Judge Boasberg. You got to write down the judge's name, go to the Wikipedia page, get their birth date and year, and then write down how they blocked Trump, where they serve as a district in court, and what the jurisdiction is, and know, so you can have a nice conversation. I left my notebooks in my car right now. I'm sorry, I can't get it out and start flipping pages and name this one and that one. But there's two new ones just today blocking Trump. And if you don't know these names, you can't have an intelligent conversation with And now with AI coming, we're the first generation. We're the first generation that has to learn how to. These are not the droids we are looking for. We're the first generation that has to learn how to outsmart AI. What a time to be alive. Thank you, God.
Right. Well, no. What I mean, have you seen the reports of all the judges that have been arrested lately for child porn or having sex with minors? There's been at least 5 or 6.
Oh, there's the one in New Mexico that harbored the one. Dugan was the one from Wisconsin that let them out the door. What was Dugan? Dugan was interfering with. No, they arrested Dugan because she was trying to let the guy out through the back door in her courtroom, and she got arrested. Now, that same thing happened in Massachusetts a couple of years ago, and she makes $230,000 a year. They gave her a slap on the wrist. She had a 3-year vacation, and now she's back on the bench. I think that's how it is.
Well, no, I'm talking.
And people, the other thing too, honestly, Deb, is how many people are asking why this and why that. This is not our country. This is not. Of course not. We had a coup. Stop asking why. We had a coup. We had a stolen election. That's why things are so upside down. That's why when it's right in our faces and nothing's being done about it, they're just laughing at us. We had a coup. They're getting our money, and if we say anything, we're like a this or a that, or they label us as a racist, as an insurrectionist. They'll label us, and nobody wants to be scared. And we had a coup. It's no use asking why things are the way they are. It's because we had a stolen election. Everything was in place. They talk about Germany invading France back in 1940. Germany had already infiltrated government and the courts in France 10 years leading up to 1940. So when the Germans invaded France, it was a cakewalk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean.
But I wanted to stay on Epstein.
Well,
and I think it's only like Little St. James Island is only 72 acres. It's too small to let a plane land or take off there. Greater St. James Island is maybe 120 acres. It's still too small. Greater St. James Island is the one that burned in April 2018. Little St. James Island, they have the temple and all that. I don't know about these tunnels people are talking about. If anybody ever questions the Illuminati, you can always see the Swiss Tunnel opening ceremony. It's still up on YouTube in June of 2016. And that is just so weird, so bizarre, as we say in Boston with the accent. Bizarre. That's Illuminati. And they say, well, it doesn't exist. Of course it exists. Can you explain this? And all the millionaires and billionaires that came there to watch it?
Yep.
See, I got people in chat now. Yeah, people are responding. People are responding in chat because I got them thinking. Is anybody else calling in, or should I keep rambling?
You can. I mean, if you got to ramble, you can ramble. But I was just gonna say, no. What I'm saying is there have been judges outside of Dugan and the ones blocking President Trump that are being arrested for pedophilia. I mean, there's I think I've seen like at least 3 in the last 2 or 3 weeks that are getting arrested, and they're local judges, but they're still judges. They're getting arrested for pedophilia, and having sex with minors and doing porno, having porno stuff, and it's crazy. And then you're talking about the insurrection. I mean, I go back. I said this to Chris the other day.
Oh, the projection is insane. Everything those Democrats accuse us of doing, they're the ones actually doing it, and they're getting away with it because we don't protest enough. Oh, I mean. No one is above the law, and due process, and then another week later they'll be on to a new phrase, a new catchphrase, and so much of it goes, is it the Frankfurt School in Germany that brought all the communism here into the universities, and they even had critical, we have critical race theory, the last talked about a lot, being taught in the schools here. They had critical theory back 100 years ago. It's the same playbook. The Melting Pot was a 1909 Broadway play. And it was all propaganda about diversity, equity, inclusion. It was a communist playbook then. The great thing is Myron Fagan, his Illuminati 1967 speech is still on YouTube. Very educational for what happened 110 years ago, and the infiltration of this country by communists.
Mm-hmm.
It's all there.
Mm-hmm.
And who was the guy that was on Thursdays on PSB every morning for a couple of years? Deacon. He only once played some Myron Fagan. I wish he could have done more. But the Melting Pot, everybody hears this Oh, no, it's not what you think. It was a Broadway play of propaganda for diversity, equity, inclusion. They were doing it back then, too, just before the rise of the Bolsheviks.
I remember Schoolhouse Rock having that about the Melting Pot. Do you remember?
Yeah, but were they talking about like everybody getting together, or were they talking about the Broadway play?
No, the Schoolhouse Rock back in the 70s when they were doing the little jingles and everything, and they were talking about the America being the melting pot, because of all.
Yeah, see, that's how it got. That's how the whole meaning of it got. It got twisted into thinking that. Kind of like Black Lives Matter, like that's a good thing. Oh, of course it matters. Not. It's not the way it was sounds in reality.
Yeah.
And there's still people in Massachusetts with this Black Lives Matter signs and flags, and Lexington and Concord and Arlington. They're all liberal woke. Every New England state, I think, voted for Harris, if you can believe it. Thank God for that Electoral College. That's another thing, Deb. How many people don't know how the Electoral College works? All they know is 270 to win. They don't know that it's as simple as, 7 states have 3 Electoral College votes? Simply because they have 2 senators and 1 congressperson. 2 plus 1 is 3. And then these other states, they have multiple districts, a representative for each district, plus 2 senators, and that's your number of electoral votes right there. But they don't know that. You think they don't know, and it's like I can't believe the ignorance is staggering.
Oh well, that's been. I mean, the dumbing down of the people have been going on since the early 1900s.
Charlotte Isabel made it onto a Dan Apple show about 4 years ago on a Sunday. Charlotte Isabel. She can still have her videos are up there on YouTube. She had an original copy of the 1797 Robinson book. Oh God, what's the name of it? I'm losing my train of thought. But yeah, Charlotte Isabel. She was the first Secretary of Education, and she was trying to warn us back then. I learned about the Reese reports when Edgar G. Robinson, Edward G. Robinson? No, Edward Griffin. G. Edward Griffin. He interviewed Norman Dodd in 1984, and Norman Dodd was working with the Reese Committee hearings, and they had the woman go back and look up how the takeover of the education system and why we really got into World War I. And I think she had she ended up in a mental institution because she couldn't believe the truth. Some people can't handle the truth. That's what they're afraid of.
Yeah. Well, I think also they just don't want to believe that they're too naive or too dumb to believe, you know.
Maybe somebody will play that. Sunny Days, are you listening? Where is she? Let me scroll back. She's posting somewhere. Find that G. Edward Griffin interview of Norman Dodd, D-O-D-D, Norman Dodd, G. Edward Griffin, 1985 interview on YouTube, and play it sometime on PSB. And you'll see there was the trying to merge with a Horace Greeley, not Horace Greeley, the other one. Oh, I can't think of his name right now. They were trying to merge the Soviet system of school back in the 1950s. They admitted it into the United States. And I'm scrolling back here now, seeing if chat is staying on topic. Vigilator wants me to keep rambling. Yeah, call in, Vigilator. Give me some relief. No. I'll think of it. Oh, it's not Horace, man. It's not Horace Greeley. Anyway. Horace Greeley was Go West, man. Go West. That's on Route 101 in southern New Hampshire. I used to drive it every day for 10 years. Yeah, so I want that Dalton is what got me triggered. I had to call in because there's so much more about Epstein than just the Lolita Express on the island. There's too many people on that for years. He was going down there, probably getting them drugged on something like scopolamine. Have you heard of that drug? The devil's drug, scopolamine, SCO. Scopolamine, because that's you're fully conscious, but you're still in a zombie state.
Yeah.
And it's very fast acting, and that might have a lot to do with people getting letting their guard down.
Yeah.
And all that.
Well, Dynamex.
And everybody forgets about Dennis Hastert. I really am surprised people forgot Dennis Hastert because this country's been under blackmail for a very long time. It's like how can, like, in the lies the Gulf of Tonkin was a lie. The babies thrown out of the incubators was a lie. And you would think that when 20 years after the Gulf of Tonkin lie was exposed, that there would be an insurrection in Washington, D.C., because 58,000 Americans were dead. Nobody did anything.
Okay.
And even now, nobody does anything. They don't even know how the Electoral College works.
Dynamex. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we got two callers on. So, whoa.
I'm glad I got you going, Deb. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. Keep the conversation going. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, we have, I have Vigilator on. I'm going to unmute you. Oh, hold on. I'm going to unmute Vigilator, and we also have another caller on Vigilator. So, what's on your mind, Vigilator?
No, that's okay. I didn't want to stop Dynamex because he was doing so much good ranting like I did the other night with you, and that was awesome. I'm sorry he dropped off, but let's all the other caller go. Just let me stay on. Let me stay on. I'll maybe comment.
All right, we've got about 20 minutes, so we have a new caller. So I'm unmuting you. Hello, caller. Who is this calling? How are you this evening?
Hi, Chris. This is Chris.
Hey, Chris. How are you?
Hey. Something that I want to get off for a while, long time. And I had a big problem with the church, and what brought my attention back to it. That I lived across from a particle accelerator, and it was really crazy. And they were starting these Christian cults, next door to me, they were planting these community churches, and it was real screwy. And then I moved away from them, and she was wearing burlap underneath her clothes. She had a baby with some guy, I guess, well, a Mexican guy, and she told her husband it was her kid, but the guy wasn't Mexican, so she's wearing burlap, and one after another, it was a really nutty cult-like. And I moved out to a rural area, and they have them out here. I was doing some research on her in the first place, and what started me was Paula White's horrible grifting got me doing some noticing. And I thought, she should lose her 501c3. And then I thought to myself, wait a minute, where do 501c3s come from? And 501c3s come from Bush. And in 2011, let's see, what are the EOs? Bush came up with Executive Order 13279, Equal Protection of the Laws for Faith-Based and Community Organizations. And it ensures equal protection of the laws, blah, blah, blah. And you can go look at the C-SPAN, and he says, I'm sure people are going to be nervous. Right after, now this happened, 9/11, all right? So you're done your 9/11. Okay, so 9/11, the first thing we got was Comrade Homeland Security with Chairman Chertoff. He's our friend. And Chairman Chertoff was ready to go. And then right after that, 2 months later, you got the TSA, Transportation Safety, And then, people didn't notice, 2 months later, you got government church, okay? So this was Executive Order 13279. And then Obama compounded this later in 2010. The first one was in 2001. Obama comes to 2010, and he puts on 9 non-Christian exemptions, and that's Executive Order 13559 from Obama. Okay, and all these faith-based initiatives came from the government. Now, I have a little video up on BitChute. The Bush created the 501c3 faith-based initiative glitched machine after the TSA post to 9/11 to corrupt the clergy. Now, also I have another video up there, and you've heard of Brandon House? Hello?
I can't think of the name. It doesn't sound.
Brandon House of Mr. Pillow. Who's the Pillow guy? He was the guy that was running. Who's Pillow dude? I can't think. I'm gonna run right now. So, the mustache. Who's the guy? My Pillow.
Mike Lindell.
He was running Mike Lindell's network. Okay. So, and Brandon House, okay, and back in the day, and he explains here, I've got one, Bush's Faith-Based Initiative, 501c3, small group, community church, Delphi technique is being used on the Christians. So the Delphi technique is this consensus building. Okay, now Brandon House did a lot of work on this in the day. And the only reason I'm very aware of it is because I had a Christian. They were planting these weird churches, but you had to have a small group. And what is the small group? And you could look now, every church has a small group just about, and they don't know what they're doing because that's a Delphi technique. And what the small group is, it was invented by a guy from the CIA, Kurt Lewin. And he is the father of small group dynamics. And the Delphi technique was created by the government to build consensus. So you can make people think that they are agreeing to things. You have a group leader, okay, and then the group leader can turn the whole group against one person. And this is, okay, so Brandon House did a lot of work on this.
Hey, Chris, can you...
Go ahead. Yeah.
You're too close to the mic. Chad is saying that they can barely understand you. They're having a hard time. You're sounding garbled. So if you can, I don't know, come kind of back away from the mic a little bit, maybe that'll help.
Okay, I'm gonna try. Let me cough a little bit. I've got a sore throat right now. I drink this anyway. Hopefully they can hear me. But these two executive orders, and then you bring in the small group, the Delphi technique, which used to be, back in the day, I've been at this a long time, 25 years. And back in the day, the Delphi technique, you would find it on Wikipedia, that the government invented it for consensus building. And it's very hard to find anything on the Delphi technique or the Delphi method now. And I'm sorry if I'm garbled, because this is really important, you know, because all the churches right now are using these small groups. And they sent out, Brandon House will explain in his videos. If you can find the rest, I got one up on my BitChute channel. And he had more, but they're no longer on his site. And he gave up on this mission. But the small groups, these people are brainwashed. It's brainwashing. And it was invented by Kurt Lewin of the OSS, which is, you know, the precursor, the CIA. And they invented this for us. And he originally used these small group dynamics on Jewish people that were getting in the diaspora. And they were running away over to Israel. And they wanted them to live in something called a kibbutz. And I didn't want to do it. And Kurt Lewin told them that they're self-hating Jews if they don't want to live in the kibbutz. And they said, no way, we're not a self-hating Jew. And then he says, come to my small groups. And in no time, they were living in the kibbutz where they didn't have their own clothes, couldn't raise their own children, couldn't have any food in their tents. And they had to change the kibbutz eventually, but he brainwashed them to do that. And that's what we got after 9/11. So the first 2 months, we got Homeland Security. Second 2 months, we got TSA. And the next 2 months, we missed it. And then they sent these agents out, and they planted these community churches that worship the community. And it's something called a three-legged stool. Government sector, private sector, and social sector, which was the church. Okay, Bush stated this in his C-SPAN. I'm sorry, I'm biting my tongue too. I got a bad tooth. Anyway, so he stated in the C-SPAN that who knows the people better than the churches, and it's community, common unity. And then we use it. They sent, Brandon House will tell you, they sent out agents, Delphi agents, to these churches. And you could come as you are. You had motorcycle church, you had cowboy church, any kind of church. And then you get love bombed when you walk in the door. Oh, you know, you're so great. Oh, hey, look, hey, everybody. Yeah, and then they will go to your finances to get your 10% tithe, to make sure you're getting 10%. We got them out here. And if you look up youth group leader, what is the one term that gets all the time, inappropriate, you'll get millions of hits. and if you put up the same thing, they have something else with dancing too. But anyway, youth group leader, inappropriate. Just those words. And go to a bunch of them. And it's in that house. And these Christian churches and the music, everything, the comfy couches, okay, the fellowship, the whole thing is they've got these people in this small group. Now, I don't know if they're still doing it, because they bring in non-believers and then they pit you, and it's Gestalt therapy. It's psychotherapy run by not even shrinks. And I've got people. I know a guy, because I wrote the Bible into rocking songs that nobody wants to hear that. They want this crazy stuff. And I've got a kid that's in the Nut House Church. They use his wife because she's a nurse, so she's important. But he's got a background, so use him as a slave to go cut other people's grass to make the church look good. And I says, Tommy, you know your Bible real good. Why don't you get yourself a what do you call it, ministry? What do you call it? Ordained. Just go around, and you could do weddings, and you could do funerals, and you can make some good money, and you get to eat at weddings and funerals. Would you tell my group leader that? Would I tell his group leader that? He's nuts. And I've confronted these people. I pointed out it's a cult. They went nuts on me. Regardless, they're all over the place. Okay, and back in the day, Rick Wiles talked. They called it. They speak a language called Christianese. I was led by the Spirit, and oh boy, everybody, oh, I'm going for that. He's led by the Spirit. He talked like Paula White. Anyway, so and all these clowns. This is this Christianese dialectic that came in with the 501c3, Bush, and Obama community church, community services. It's community. You heard Klaus Schwab say, we've got the clergy. He's got the clergy. I did a lot of research on this, okay? And it stems from a Korean cult leader by the name of Yonggi Cho, Yongi Cho. And he turned all these women in South Korea into Christians. And they were singing Christian songs and Christian everything all over the place, just women mostly. And Brussels says, hey, how did you do that? And he was a former Buddhist monk. And he told him his method with the small groups and stuff. And then Brussels did it, and then the EU did it, and then we got them all over the place, thanks to Bush and Obama. And to talk to these people, they don't know that they can talk directly. They don't need a group leader. And they'll lie. And they'll say, Jesus was in a small group. The 12 apostles, it was a small group. It was a Kurt Lewin psychoanalysis, gestalt therapy, brainwashing consensus group. That's what Jesus was doing. And they believe it. They believe it. Now, I noticed that got confronted by these people. And well, it used to be a category, yeah, there's something wrong in there. But a lot of people fall for it. And most of our churches, these small groups, is called Gestalt therapy, and it is consensus building. And Jesus doesn't want you to be a communist. I've got a video up here of Dr. Bob Clank from about 2008 or so, and he explains the small groups where people don't have the attention span for 2.5 hours. And you see this, and you would understand these small groups, and you would ever want to be in one. But that's what all the churches are. So how can they save us when they're all in consensus and they're basically led around by the nose by these group leaders? And there's what do you call it? Look up spiritual abuse. See how many hits you got for that. And that opens up a new. Okay, they got counseling. They like counseling too. But when you got spiritual abuse, I got spiritual abuse counselors. It's amazing what they did to the church. And I had to hold my tongue. And I can't tell people this stuff. I figured you people would like it. Now, take a look. Dig. I'll tell you what the EOs are. I know Dig on Banging House. DRANNONHOWSE. What he did in the past, I don't know why he stopped. But he does have a few videos left up there. He explains that these are agents coming into your churches. And they've already come, and they've been doing this for so many years now, it's normal in a so-called Christian church.
Yeah.
Go ahead, you want to say something? You probably can't hear me well.
Oh, I just wanted to tell you, well, you have a lot of interesting points there, but my show is coming to an end. So you had some.
Are you kidding? You just started. Okay.
It's been 2 hours, so I'm gonna have to close.
Listen, I was gonna give $50. I was gonna give $50 to Soko and try to get her the information just to compile it and have her take a look. She's a badass. She is a digger, and I wanted Soko, but you had a phone number. Okay, I want to give this to Soko. She would sniff this out and say, "Whoa, we got a church back."
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, she is on Wednesday evening, so if you want to get together with her and chat, or let her know in chat on Wednesday evening, she can.
She's my new favorite. I love her. But okay.
Well, thank you.
Well, you have a good night, and look at just put in. Where can I find a church small group? And you'll find, and they're all nut houses. They're all nut houses, and it's scary. So anyway, God bless you. Have a good one.
All right, you too. All right, everybody. I'm closing down the the conference.
The host has ended this call.
I
Goodbye.
just want to thank everybody who called in. Had some really Dynamex, Vigilator, and Chris, and y'all had some really deep and interesting thoughts. And I see Dano is in the house. Hey, Dano, how are you?
Hey, Deb. How you doing tonight?
Good. How are you? How's your week been?
It's been pretty good, pretty eventful. Can't complain though, you know.
Yeah. I was going to call in Tuesday, but you were I can't remember what I was going to call in about either. But that's how it goes. You're on the when you come in on Tuesdays, I'm listening. I'm coming back to the house, and I thought, oh, I want to, and then I forget. Then I say, oh, I want to talk to Dano about that on Saturday, and then I forget.
Oh yeah, actually, I was gonna do call-ins Tuesday and had a surprise guest host there. Soko was on there with me, so ended up not doing the call-ins that night. But
y'all had some really deep going. You had some deep conversations going on, and now I can't remember what it was. So.
That's the way it is, right?
Right. Talking about
memory.
What do you think about the well, let's see, was it Dynamex was talking about the stipends going to the illegal, I'm wondering, I don't know. It's interesting. I thought Dynamex said it.
The stipends they had been receiving, or is there something new? What is this? What's
the self deporters, the people that self deport. President Trump said he was thinking about they'll give them $1,000 stipend if they self deport. Which I don't know if you heard.
Yeah,
I don't know if you heard earlier. Did you see that about the 19-year-old? And this is what got Dynamex going. She's from Dalton, Georgia, and she and her family have been in this country since 2010. The father came in illegally. They stopped the DACA program before, so she couldn't. It's like they're trying to blame the system on the reason why she wasn't illegal. He had plenty of time to get legal, but now they've raised $60,000 at least for GoFundMe, and the representatives involved, because they're like, oh well, they're here and they've been good people. What do you think about that?
Well, I think they're gonna publicize the negative side. They're gonna highlight any kind of negative stories, and there's gonna be some unfortunate circumstances, in individual families, with this immigration issue for sure. So you can anticipate them to highlight the negative. I don't know that particular story, but I wouldn't expect anything less from them, And then they can capitalize on that as well. That's half the game. It's if you don't have people's attention, then it doesn't have any effect. So they have to they can create campaigns using GoFundMe and social media alone. And now the news has something to report. They create the stories.
Yeah, and what bothers me the most is they've been here for 15 years, and the mother had to have an interpreter because she doesn't know how to speak English. I know it takes a while to learn new languages, especially after you get older, but you would think that she would learn at least something, right?
Well, the only way these social engineering maneuvers work is if we have empathy. We have to emotionally have empathy for the victims, whatever victims are, right? So they got to create victims out of this. I've lost patience with the beating around the bush kind of thing. This is direct replacement of Western culture. It always has been. It was designed that way. I remember reading documents, UN documents, and globalist documents for many years, 20 something years ago, where they're talking about Agenda 21. And they had this all lined up. So I'm past being patient with that. All these stories are sort of distractions from the bigger picture. What's their main goal? Why did they want to flood a country with a bunch of foreigners and then get us to argue over the fact that it's even happening,
Well, argue whether or not they should stay or whether they should go back to their country of origin. I mean, because the sympathy is well, she's 19 years old, she's going to school, she did all this, so So why should she be deported because she's been here for 15 years? Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's her
Well, we either
her
have border
parents.
laws or we create global. Hmm? Yeah,
Um,
yeah. We either have individual countries and our constitution, or we have to make a global constitution and become a global citizen. There's no, and if you see the bigger picture is to basically control the world, then the borders are just an illusion for those guys. They're just trying to socially engineer us into the direction they need us to go. And so again, I don't know, these day-to-day stories where there's victims. It's unfortunate, but um, these confusing laws have a lot of bad effects. You know what I mean? Years of bad laws by design.
you know what and of course the narrative is the family is a Republican, and there's a Republican senator getting involved because, like I said, because she's been good. I just, I don't know. Part of me wants to be hard nosed and hard lined on the whole thing and say, look, she, they came in, they, it, uh, they came in illegally. Her father was illegal. From what I could tell, her mother was illegal because there's one report saying that the father and the student and the father are in a detention center, but the rest of the family are not. I do not know why. That doesn't. Oh, the father's in a detention center because he got caught speeding 19 miles over the speed limit, 19 miles an hour over the speed limit. And I'm like, we got immigration laws for a reason, and it may be a misdemeanor, but in our not a constitutional, but our immigration law, you're not supposed to commit any kind of misdemeanor that can get you deported. But the fact that he was here illegally in the first place, it's kind of like if she hadn't got caught for traffic, making a wrong turn on a red light, and if he hadn't got a speeding ticket, they'd still be in the country. And I want to know how it is if she was they say undocumented, how she was able to go to school since she was 4 years old. I mean,
Uh, well, I mean, this is the effects of what was being set up during Obama's time.
yeah.
There's no consequence. There's no accountability. What's legal and illegal if there's no accountability? And so, Obama set up, like he purged our system and put people in place to be like the final blow, to set up the final blow for the United States, right? The West.
Mm-hmm. Well, Black Eyes
so
1988 says if you make an exception for one, they will pile on exceptions. That's true. It's like
if we don't enforce laws, then we don't have anything. Sorry, I didn't mean to overtalk you. I was reading chat there.
No, I don't. I do that too, so I apologize for that too. Be kind to illegals, reunite them with their homelands. This is crazy because if we were to go to another country, would you think that we would be getting the same kind of consideration would we get a GoFundMe to let us stay in that country? I doubt it. So,
No. And on paper, we're technically refugees as fiscal slaves that are nothing but commodities for a global system. So, technically maybe we could be refugees for another country, but that's never going to happen, right?
mm-hmm. Let's file a writ of habeas corpus to these say where's our money, or whatever it is, let's I don't know. It's
Or
such
try to race to Mars and own Mars first and then start all over again. I don't know.
well, that's like my daughter and I got in a conversation, and I said something about they're illegal immigrants, and she just kind of got that look on her face that says, "What? I know you don't agree with me." She said, "But you're dehumanizing them by calling them illegal immigrants." I'm not trying to dehumanize them, but they're not here legally. I have a cousin. He went to England on I'm assuming for work, on a work visa, and he he worked England, it took them over 10 years to become English citizens. And the reason why they did that was because of the taxes. Because I guess they were paying double taxes. So they decided to become English citizens. But he went in, he worked, he was working, he was showing, whatever it was, but they still immigrated, or not with an I, but with an E, I guess it is, or I, because I is coming into our country, E is going out. So, um, anyway, they became English citizens of the United Kingdom. They had to go to the schooling. My whole thing is, when you come in illegally, whose allegiance are you? You're not showing allegiance to the country, and especially like these protesters flying these flags of origin of their country or origin. Why are you coming into a country that you're not going to show loyalty? If you really, I mean, why aren't you fighting to stay into this country instead of fighting to by flying your country of origin? Show us the reason why you deserve to be in this country. Sorry, I'm kind of like you. I'm tired of the whole.
Well, if you turn the United States into a global welfare system, it's only going to destroy everybody, and that's sort of what they were doing. But they weren't just turning us into a welfare system. They were destroying Western culture and Judeo-Christian values.
Yeah, that's it. It's the attack on our Christian values. That's exactly.
I mean, if somebody walked into your home and started disrespecting your mom, you wouldn't tolerate it, right? Like, or saying bad things about your family or somebody you loved or cared about, right?
Yeah, what's that saying? I can talk smack about my family all I want to, but you better not, right? That's when we bring
you have authority. You have authority to trespass them, right? You could just because you don't want them there, based on what they say, right? You have that choice, but if we can't defend our own country, which is the position we've been in, and if you try to defend it, they'd call you racist and sexist and homophobic. That's what they were doing. So that's been turned around. I think it's going to take some time. Obviously, it's not going to happen overnight. But, I think that's not just stopped. I think it's been reversed, and now we're going through the bumpy part of transitioning to a different direction. I hope. Otherwise, this is all a ruse, and we're getting trapped in the artificial reality.
Well,
and the more we argue about these things, the more we reinforce the artificial reality we don't want.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword.
If it doesn't turn around again soon, we might as well just grab our ankles and say bye-bye.
Or stop looking at the internet and focus on anything real in our lives. Get off anything with a screen is separating you from your true potential.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's like, what is reality anymore?
They're creating that. And the cool thing about human beings is we get to create our own reality. And that's why, if we do that without God, it's a life of sin and harshness. And we choose to do that with God, it can be a better life. But we have this imagination thing. It's an amazing gift. It's a double-edged sword, though, right? It's the most powerful thing known in the universe is our imagination. We can use it for good or evil. So,
Yeah.
And in a sense, one side just needs the other, right? Like God's law. He gave that to us so we could see how far off we are. We didn't have that. We'd think we're doing right all the time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's what the law is. The law is here to show how much we need our Creator.
Right.
Okay. Well,
cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and back out so you can get on with the show. Thank you for talking to me, and
it's always fun, Deb.
You have a great one, and we'll talk to you next weekend.
All righty, we'll see you. Have a good week.
You too.
All right,